now reconvene to the regular meeting of the Board of Education at 7:01 p.m. with Blair, Cruz, Na, Roscoe, and Fikes present. Before we begin, please silence all electronic devices and note that these proceedings are being recorded. Pat.
The board met in closed session from 4 p.m. to 6:58 regarding conference with legal counsel, existing and anticipated litigation, public employee complaint hearing, public employee discipline dismissal release, and public employee appointment, Director of Human Resources. The board voted to appoint Francisco Arce, Director of Human Resources, effective October 8, 2018, by a unanimous vote of 5-0, with Cruz, Blair, Na, Orozco, and Fikes voting yes. No further action was taken that requires public disclosure.
Thank you. Leading the Pledge of Allegiance tonight is Frankie Verduzco.
Good evening, board. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
We are now at the Student Showcase with Don Lugo High School journalism students.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Enfield, President Fikes, and board members. My name is Annette Deming, and I am the Certified Journalism Educator and Advisor of the Quest News Journalism Program at Don Antonio Lugo High School. It is truly an honor to present the investigative reporting, interviewing, researching, writing, and publishing these journalists have completed in just 6 short weeks of the school year. This group of award-winning students never ceases to amaze me, and this year is no different. With your permission, I'd like to invite the 2018-2019 editorial staff to the podium to share with you their very first staff editorial to ever be written in the history of Quest News.
Good evening, board members. I am Anthony Romero, the editor-in-chief of Quest News.
I'm Carly Ortiz, the managing editor of Quest News.
I'm Anthony Winslow, news editor.
We are going to read our first editorial piece that we wrote, and yes.
Okay. It's time for a confession. CVUSD needs to change its cyberbullying policy. Social media is an inescapable force, a place of cat videos, family photos, and unfortunately, bullying. For reasons beyond us, Don Lugo High School students and alumni seem to take pride in not having pride. 3 weeks ago, the Quest News staff began investigating a public Instagram page that has been up since June 29th of 2017 with 174 posts, by the name of DLHS Confessions. This account posts anonymous confessions from individuals relevant to the staff and students of Don Lugo. These posts contain rude and offensive confessions, although the account's owner or owners continuously claim the page is a safe place, but the posts borderline on bullying, defamation, and hate speech. We of the Quest News staff do not stand for behavior that destroys the pride of our school or breaks our school's code of be respectful, be responsible, and be involved. The confessions page claims to give students a place to rant, but the only thing these students' remarks are accomplishing is harming the school's reputation, disparaging the reputations of teachers, and allegedly causing drama among students. Contributors to these posts and the moderators are putting themselves at risk for disciplinary action and possibly legal action, since some of the confessions have inferred that there are students in possession of child pornography. Moderators have allowed for the flaming of negative rumors and hate speech about specific groups and inappropriate comments about staff members on campus. Other schools, such as Chino Hills, Ayala, Canyon Hills, and Townsend Junior High, have also had similar accounts in the past. The most concerning of these is a recently deleted student-run page at Townsend Junior High School that posted pictures taken of girls' behinds without their knowledge. while posting sexual comments. However, these accounts have either been taken down or are inactive. Don Lugo is currently the only school with a confessions page open for public view in our district. So why hasn't the DLHS confessions page been taken down? When it comes to social media, the law has a large gray area. According to the director of the Breckner Center of Freedom at the University of Florida, legal professor Frank Lamont explains, quote, "The scope of a school's authority over social media is still uncertain. We know for sure that students cannot have fewer rights on social media than they would inside the school. In order to understand students' First Amendment rights in a public school setting, the community and the school have to ask themselves, would this speech be punishable if said inside a hallway? What about to a group of friends at a lunch table? Most of us would say no. We might even suggest that the kind of ridicule found on this page is just kids blowing off steam. According to Lamont, quote, I feel pretty sure this would be protected speech. We know for sure that a school can regulate anything that suggests violence against school employees or students. That much is clear. Where it gets gray is name-calling, insults, and speech that borders on defamation. If the type of comments made on this confessions page were to be shouted in the center of the quad, consequences would be inevitable. The outburst of a perpetrator that disrupts a school environment would most likely face suspension or some other disciplinary action. So how is posting the disgusting comments on a public forum with 291 followers a fair comparison to an intimate hallway or lunch table conversation? It's not. In our opinion, blowing off steam that borders on hate speech and defamation to a public audience online is a closer comparison to someone shouting obscenities in the quad. This is not just a gray area for public schools, it's a huge gray area for the law and needs to be addressed. The Chino Valley Unified School District states in their district policies, quote, cyberbullying includes the creation of transmission of harassing communications, direct threats, or other harmful texts, sounds, or images on the internet. This policy is outdated and too general. There is no outline nor definition on what is considered harmful text. And social media has evolved to the point where direct threats aren't the only thing that should raise concern among the school district due to the accessibility of social media. Cyberbullying is a rising problem via social media. Bullying follows students wherever they go. Kids can no longer go home to escape their attackers. Medical News Today references the effect social media has on suicide, saying, cyberbullying is more strongly related to suicidal thoughts in children and adolescents than traditional bullying, according to a new analysis published in JAME Pediatrics. The California Healthy Kids survey taken by CVUSD students last year reports that 12% of 9th graders and 20% of 11th graders answered yes to having seriously considered attempting suicide within the past 12 months. There have been a rise in accounts such as this, and coincidentally, there has been a rise in the numbers of students claiming to feel suicidal. Those of us who have been affected by loss due to suicide know that cyberbullying can play a role in suicide attempts. In fact, Dr. Cabrera explained, if someone kills themselves as a result of social media, they are responsible for that death. The rise in teenage suicide should be all the evidence we need to see the true consequences of spreading hate and bullying. In just 2 decades, suicide has increased by 25% according to CNN, and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention states that suicide is the second leading cause of death for those between 10 and 24 years of age. Teachers and staff are trying to find ways to put an end to these alarming and increasing suicide rates. But as bullying continues and social media becomes more accessible, it becomes a much harder task. The DLHS Confessions Instagram page is a dangerous warning to schools, school districts, the state, and the law. In order to prevent bad impressions, we suggest asking Instagram to verify high school run accounts, so these anti-school pride pages do not appear when people look up their schools. There are other pages that are verified on Instagram, and apps such as Snapchat are just one example of taking responsibility for designated school accounts, where schools are able to get their accounts recognized as official rather than student-created. Schools should strive to have social media accounts that constantly post and interact with students in order to divert attention from pessimistic accounts like DLHS Confessions. Although the Instagram account cannot be taken down by the school, it is our intention to continue reporting its contributors and moderators to Instagram. As one of several leadership organizations on our campus representing the ideals that leaders like Dr. Kimberly Cabrera have worked so hard to protect, the staff of Quest News is asking our school and community to join in the fight that will eventually bring awareness to social media activity by first, reporting maleficence like this page, its moderators, and its contributors. Second, informing parents that they are the only defense to bad online social media behavior before some sort of regulatory agency steps in. And third, to help us inform lawmakers about a gray area of the law that could be contributing to increased rates of suicide in our county and in our district. We have a responsibility to report any hateful behavior we see at our school, but there is only so much we students can do about social media and cyberbullying. CVUSD has a responsibility to keep students safe, and sometimes that means clarifying social media behavior expectations through board policies that are clear, but more importantly, expectations that help students understand when they've crossed a line and have put themselves in danger of more severe consequences. Social media has evolved. Over and over, we've heard our generation referred to as the product of 21st century teaching, but we have to include education in social media for that statement to be true. It is a part of our everyday lives. We need the law to change and the gray area reconciled if we are to keep our schools free from bullying and reduce our increased suicide rates. No one should ever feel unsafe or threatened by said what's online. It's time for our district and state to address the gray area of student-run social media pages that destroy a school's culture, reputation, and puts their student body at emotional risk. The result of not addressing this issue will undoubtedly be disastrous.
Just to update you on the story, we were relieved to announce that as of 12:46 p.m. yesterday, the moderator of the DLHS Confessions page has deleted their Instagram account. And as of 9:30 p.m. last night, Instagram has acknowledged our email in which we shared our editorial with Instagram corporate, and now the page has been completely removed.
To reiterate, the current CVUSC policy on social media is, quote, cyberbullying includes the creation of transmission of harassing communications, direct threats, and other harmful text, sounds, or images on the internet, end quote. There is no mention of social media anywhere in this policy. We, as a leadership program, would like to help you expand on this policy. We understand that you cannot change the law. We're hoping you'll be able to strengthen our district's policy to be more inclusive of social media. We understand our peers and how they use social media. We also understand that sometimes using social media is not as easy for adults. This is where we think we can help. As we explain in our story, social media has a direct correlation to the increasing rates of suicide. So we consider this matter urgent. We ask that you reevaluate the policy thoroughly and quickly. Thank you.
No, you go ahead.
I just want to say how extremely proud, as a teacher and advisor, I am. Journalism is about affecting change. They've absolutely done that, and I hope that you got a chance to witness that and see that tonight.
Mr. Na.
Yeah, I'm so proud of you guys. I really love you and your hard work. And it shows that, and you have shown, that everyone's life matters. It's not the one special person. Matter of fact, everyone's are special. And you have fought for that, and you made that happen. Changes are always good. However, the changes that lift are more value and our principles, and you have done that. So you have actually earned your praise. And Dr. Cabrera, thank you for being a great principal there, an awesome teacher that that loves children, who could grow and become better than ourselves. That's what had happened. We had a black and white TV and a color TV and an iPad and an iPhone. We had to progress, and we have to become better citizens and a decent human being. So thank you. I would like to ask Dr. Anfield if our students could meet up with risk management. I don't know how often, but maybe share their thoughts and really implement the needs of our school district. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mrs. Blair.
Can we have each of you introduce yourselves at the mic?
I'm Diego Cruz, a reporter.
I'm Joe Martin, and I'm a reporter.
Aiden Deming, I'm a reporter.
My name is Josephine Ramos, and I'm also a reporter.
Andrea Salja, a reporter.
My name is Valerie Torres, and I'm a reporter.
She's one of the 3 editors.
Carly Ortiz, I'm the managing editor of Quest News.
Anthony Winslow, news editor.
And I'm Anthony Romero, the editor-in-chief of Quest News.
Is that it? Mrs. Roscoe.
Well, you know, I'm very proud of you because you made a difference in what's going on, and so congratulations for doing such a great job. Dr. Enfield, maybe we can take a look at our social media policy, because social media just evolves like crazy, and so I think our policy needs to evolve with it. Thank you. Great job, guys and gals.
So this editorial piece is a new piece for your school newspaper? You haven't been doing pieces like this before?
We write commentary pieces, we write news pieces, technology, but in terms of editorial pieces, we've always sort of veered away from because they can sometimes be considered controversial, and we have our own policy in the Quest newsroom that says everybody must be in agreement 100% in favor of or against a certain issue. And when this issue came about and we had when we first found out about the page, they first brought it to me. They started to investigate it. The more they had the discussions, the more interviewing they did, the more research they did, the more passionate they became. And it was easy for them to all be on one side of the issue. And since once they were on the one side of the issue, I think that was pretty much easy from there, right? So they took that, interviewed our principal in great length. Mr. Lamont, who's the interviewer from the University of Florida, is our attorney with the Student Press Law Center, and Quest News is directly connected with the Student Press Law Center. It's something that is unique to our program, but something that I take quite a bit of value in my students, making sure that they understand how not to just be journalists, but how to be ethical journalists and to abide by the law. And before we could even pursue this story, we had to run it through him first, make sure we understood everything about First Amendment rights and where that ends in terms of online social media and where that begins in the school. And that was enlightening for us. And I think once he shed some light on the gray area of the law, we sort of knew that we had a responsibility. They knew they had a responsibility to report it. That's what they do. They report the news.
So thank you very much for your leadership as the teacher advisor. It's key, and it's a tough road to walk because of all of those freedom of the press issues. And for all the students, I think it was a very courageous stand for you to all come together. Many of the kids you went to school with or you go to school with probably wouldn't have taken that stand thinking, I can say what I want and I can say it under the veil of anonymity. So I really appreciate your strength and then the commitment that you put in to the writing of this article. Alexi, I would like to see that there might be some discussion of this at the general school councils. So when they come with you, so that we could get the perspective of all of our schools. So something to consider. I am the one who laughed out loud when you said, some of the older folks might not be so technologically savvy, and that's me. I'm not so technologically savvy, but I do believe students are really aware of all the things that are going on, and so to get input from all of our schools, I think, could be really valuable. So something to consider. Certainly nothing you have to do, but something to consider. We thank you so much for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr.
Real
Cruz.
quick, the DLHS, what platform was it on?
Instagram.
Pardon me? Oh,
Instagram.
What is this? I thought it was photos. You take photos, right?
Yeah, you can be photos, but it can also be text like, on the photos.
Pardon?
It can also be like text on the photos.
There must be a lot of that stuff occurring.
See, and it's funny because as President Fikes brought up to the English teacher in me, I talk to them all the time about, okay, what is the social media vernacular? Because I don't understand what's happening right now. And so they are the ones that shed light on that. It was them that discovered that the post had been taken down by the actual person who was the anonymous person, but it was Instagram that shut down the page completely after we had sent Instagram an email with the link to the editorial with another plea to take it down for its hate speech. And so they're the ones who were able to look at the screen and go, oh yeah, that's what that is. Okay, and that was when we realized that we need them and we need their voices to understand something that we don't always seem to understand. And social media is one of those things. That is not our generation. That is their generation. And so to be able to share that with you it really is an honor to share that with you.
I would really appreciate it if you could get us a copy of the paper, each of the board members.
Of the paper.
Of
Oh,
your paper.
we don't have any paper. See, there you go, right there, right? We don't run
It's all
newspaper.
online.
It's all online. That's how you break news.
I'm so 1950s.
And you know what? You know what's funny? We take so much pride in that too, because the sustainability of online fits obviously our budget, but at the same time too. And I know Don Marks is here with the Chino Champion, but we always joke about how we can break the news and Chino Champion has to wait for the printer, and so it really is again another instance of moving on with the times.
So we can get it on your web page.
You can get it online. Anybody can go to dalquestnews.org.
Thank you.
Thank you. One more question. What was the process? How long did it take for them to shut it down?
We posted the editorial on Monday evening. Most everybody on our campus was sharing it that morning. By 12:46 that afternoon, the person responsible, that moderator, they had made a comment first because it sounded like they wanted to put up a fight. And by 12:46, they were gone. They had deleted their account, and by 9:30 that evening, it had been gone completely. So right after we released the story, right after 12:46 p.m. yesterday, when the moderator left, we had sent a follow-up email to Instagram Corporate. Instagram Corporate got that email probably around 2:30 in the afternoon yesterday, and by 9:30 in the evening, after we sent them the link, the whole page was gone.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thanks for coming tonight. A photo in the front? Yeah, you want to come forward for a photo? See what I can do.
Yeah, it is.
We are now at comments from our student representative, Alexi.
Hello and good evening. Our October 2nd meeting was our first virtual meeting for the Superintendent's Advisory Council. The Skype meeting began with every member sharing their name, grade, school, and position. After introductions, we reviewed our notes from our last meeting. Each site chose a topic to propose as our project and focus for the year. As each school proposed their idea, a common theme of mental health was noticed, so we decided to combine all our ideas and focus on the mental health of youth. This includes feeling safe on campuses, stress, depression, anxiety, and an anti-bullying campaign. There was an open discussion on what each campus has in place and areas we hope to improve on. At our next meeting on November 6th, we will discuss the steps needed to achieve our goal. Thank you.
Thank you. We are at comments from... Great, let's give her a round of applause. We are now at comments from employee representatives. We'll begin with Yvette Farley, Champ President. No comments. Danny Hernandez, CSEA. No comments. Brenda Walker, ACT. No comments. We are now at community liaisons. Presenters serving as community liaisons should limit their comments to matters relating to their community agencies. If you would like to comment on an agenda item or non-agenda item that are of general interest, we would appreciate it if you would complete a speaker card as all other community members do. Mr. Bennett is not in attendance and he didn't send anyone. Paul Rodriguez, not in attendance. Mike Krieger, not in attendance. Mrs. Campani or Suzette Dang, not in attendance. We're moving right along. We are now at comments from the audience on
Changes and
items not
deletions.
on the agenda. Pardon?
Changes and deletions? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's not here.
No, I've
That's
got,
later.
you're right.
Okay.
I was ahead of myself.
I'm right. Rare. We are now at comments from the audience on items not on the agenda. Pat, are there any requests to speak on non-agenda items?
We have 5 requests to speak, Madam President, on items not on the agenda.
Speakers will be called in the order the request was received. Please listen for your name and be prepared to approach the podium. Any comments on agenda items will be accepted during consideration of that item. Once the board has commenced deliberations on an issue, speaker cards will not be accepted. The board is very interested in your comments, but please bear in mind that the board typically does not respond to comments during this time on the agenda, as it is reserved specifically for public comments. Individual members may respond during board comments at the end. Mrs. Blair, will you please explain the light system?
Speakers, you have 3 minutes in which to make your comments. Please begin your comments at the green light. The yellow light indicates you have 30 seconds in which to complete your comments. The red light indicates your time is over. And before you begin your comments, please adjust the microphone as necessary so that you may be clearly heard. And audience members, please refrain from making comments while speakers are at the podium.
Speakers, please remember that in accordance with Board Bylaw 9323 Bylaws of the Board, meeting conduct, limit remarks to 3 minutes total for all remarks. And please limit remarks to new points. The board would like to remind you that Board Policy 1312.1 contains the procedure for anyone who wishes to file a complaint against a district employee. Please follow that procedure. The first speaker is Bella Kennedy Cummings, followed by Juan Villalba, followed by Don Bridge.
Good evening, school board members and guests. My name is Bella Kennedy Cummings, and I am 18 years old. I am a senior at Don Antonio Luga High School, where I have attended since freshman year. All of my siblings attended Chino High School, but I wanted to be part of the engineering program at Don Lugo, so I transferred. I grew up in the foster care system for 6.5 years with my special needs brother. At the age of 10, my brother and I met our forever family. At 13, my brother and I were adopted by my moms. Not only did my parents adopt me and my brother, but they also previously adopted a sibling set of 4 children. We are now a huge forever family with 2 moms, 4 boys, and 2 girls. My mom gave all of us a true chance at life. Back in 2016, school board member Andrew Cruz stated that every child should be raised by their biological parents. Mr. Cruz, You need to understand that not all biological parents are fit to raise children, and so therefore I strongly disagree with you. I have 2 wonderful moms and 5 awesome siblings I would not have had if I was left with my biological parents. My moms give me the love and support I need to flourish in life. All of the years that I have attended school in Chino have been fabulous. I have received a great education in a district with a diverse community that was once voted top 100 for young people. This community consists of whites, blacks, Asians, U.S. citizens, immigrants, gays, straights, transgenders, Christians, Catholic, Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, atheists, and people from all walks of life. As a school board, we need to be progressive and support our diverse students' population instead of passing negative judgments on them like Andrew Cruz and James Naw have done. I include James Naw as an instigator of the negativity because all he does is make excuses for Mr. Cruz. I also hate it when Mr. Naw thinks it's okay just to go up and hug children and whisper to them without their parents' permission. Own up to your wrongs, gentlemen. Owning up does not mean that you have an apology speech written for you a week later after you say such stupid garbage like Hitler was not evil. Mr. Cruz, the statement that you made a few board meetings ago was reprehensible. Hitler was evil and discriminated against people just like you do. I would like all of the board members here to understand that I am now 18 and I vote, and so do my friends. You all should be representing our diverse community and not your own narrow-minded beliefs. Use our school money to help pay for our STEM programs or other educational opportunities, instead of this stupid fight to change the U.S. Constitution. Our founding fathers said there should be a separation of church and state, and you all are wasting our money to fight that shameful and narrow-minded fight.
Juan Villalba, followed by Don Bridge, followed by Dr. Sharon Stein, excuse me.
Hello, good evening. My name is Juan Villalba and I'm a parent of 2 Chino Valley School District students. I'm here to voice my continued concern regarding the current legal battle over the right to pray during school board meetings. As I mentioned on previous meetings, the First Amendment of our Constitution already protects freedom of religion. You have already spent $300,000 of our tax money on this legal crusade that has absolutely nothing to do with the education of our children. And the cost is expected to continue to rise. This only has to do with what you believe is your right to pray, preach, profess, and even attempt to influence our faith while holding a position on a public office, and clearly violating the Establishment Clause of our Constitution. The Constitution clearly states that church and state are to be separated. We elected you to this public office to be a school board member, not a priest or a pastor. Act as a school board member and act in the best interest of our children, not your best interest. Mr. Cruz, Mr. Naw, it looks very clear to me that over the course of your tenure as board members, you have violated many of the Board of Education bylaws. You either ignore the bylaws or you don't do your due diligence and do not have knowledge of them. Instead of acting as a board member, you proselytize and mislead the public, even in your own board policies that you, Mr. Naw, co-authored. I refer to policy 6142. Mr. Cruz, help me understand the disconnect between your CVUSD website biography and your action as a selected board member. Do you have a different agenda? Do you follow someone else's agenda? Did you deceive this community to get elected? As your biography states, you're a well-educated individual. How come you voice such divisive and insensitive rhetoric during the meeting on 2015 and again during the meeting on September 6th? Have you not listened to our whole community? Or you just have ears for your own group and expect the rest of us to sit down and do nothing while you disregard our beliefs and our opinion? Thank you.
Don Bridge.
President Fikes, board members, staff, and audience, good evening. Don Bridge. Before I start, I'm with you, Mrs. Fikes, on the paper. I have trouble reading the LA Times on my iPhone, and it's So anytime I can see a real paper, I still use it. What I wanted to give a brief comment on tonight was last Thursday, my wife Jan and I had the chance to go out to drive out to San Bernardino to hear San Bernardino County Superintendent Ted Alejandre's State of the Education address. And I just wanted to give you a few highlights of what I noticed. One thing, and it kind of goes along with what we heard earlier from the Don Lugo students. He talked about a program which I understand we have in our district at some of the schools, PBIS, Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports, where he talked about there's a countywide focus on multi-tiered systems of support, positive behavior interventions, building safe and relationship-oriented school climates, mental health awareness, and treatment and suicide prevention. And I would hope that we'd be able to, in this district, I think, expand that out. And we heard, I think, a good reason why we should do that and look at that possibly at all of our schools. Anytime we can use resources from the county, I think it's a good idea. The other program he talked about, which I was kind of impressed with and I didn't know that the county had, was through the ROP program, debuted last summer its first cybersecurity class through its newly opened Dorothy Ingram Learning Center in San Bernardino, and they partner with San Bernardino Valley College, one of the college, and Cal State San Bernardino, my two alma maters. The ROP class offers students in the region an education pathway to a lucrative and growing career in cybersecurity, and we constantly continue to hear about that even nationally. So I was very impressed with that. The one thing that I really enjoyed seeing, and we had a highlight, we got to see it here, and was during the superintendent's address, he had the Briggs Rube Goldberg winning students present their general skills to the audience there at the California Theater. When I saw that, I kept nudging my wife. I said, "Wait till you see this; you won't believe it." And they set it up on the stage. They did the whole setup, including the costumes, the whole routine. It was just great to see. And there was probably, I'm not sure the crowd estimate, probably about 400 to 500 people in that audience, with a lot of district administrators, personnel, and so on. And just wonderful to see that. Wonderful to get the recognition. The one thing I was a little disappointed in, I'm sure there were parents there, but I wonder if Jan and I were maybe the only two other Chino people that were there. I would hope that this district would be a little more involved with the county. Maybe it's because I grew up out there and went to school out there. But we are in San Bernardino County, and I think anytime the superintendent does something, anytime the county has meetings, that we need to be there as a district, since this is our county. Thank you very much.
Dr. Sharon Stein, followed by the final speaker, Debbie Woolery.
Do you want to adjust the mic? There you go.
Oh, yes, hi. I'm Dr. Sharon Stein. Hi. President, board members, and audience of Chino Valley Unified School District. I'm here today because I'm appalled, dismayed, shocked, horrified, and sickened by Mr. Cruz's recent comment at the last board meeting that Hitler was not a bad man. I don't think a comment like that by anyone, let alone a school board member, justifies your position or any position. I have some suggestions. Perhaps maybe you should go back to school again before you sit on a school board. Maybe you need to educate yourself of who Hitler was. Perhaps you need to take a trip to Auschwitz for a start. That's where you can view all the eyeglasses, the hair, the suitcases, the artificial limbs, the crutches, the children's shoes that take up half of a barracks of glass display cases in Block 5. The red shoes, however, stand out because that's the color that hasn't faded. Were you aware of the lampshades he made of the Jewish victim's skin? Are you aware that he tortured, maimed, starved, experimented, buried alive, gassed and lined innocent souls up in shallow graves to be shot dead millions of times? Oh, Hitler was not a bad man. For the sake of those 6 million Jewish people and 6 million others, you need to immediately step down and go to Auschwitz or pick any of these Holocaust memorials around the world, which you can Google. Yes, I can Google as an older person. And including the Simon Wiesenthal Holocaust Memorial Center in Los Angeles, to view for yourself what kind of mass murderer, sadistic, psycho-animal Hitler was, who caused World War II. In the present climate that we are now in, whereupon our history is being erased, extracted from our books, destroyed from our memorials, my conscience cannot allow your despicable and ignorant comment to go without accountability. not for 1 millisecond of a second, because there are those that can be easily influenced and believe it, especially in the climate we live today. Fake news. Therefore, that does little for the memory of 12 million souls lost. Step down, resign, take responsibility for your uneducated remarks. Thank you.
Student Frankie Verduzco. Frankie Verduzco?
I believe Debbie.
No, I know, they just
Debbie
submitted a
Woolery.
student
Oh.
card. He was just right there. Yeah.
Sorry. Good evening, board and superintendent. I just want to share that my experience at junior high as a student, entering as a 7th grader, I wasn't sure to expect. People have begun to make choices who they want to be and who they want to love. I want to share a quote. Marriage is about love, not gender. Thank you.
The final speaker is Debbie Woolery.
I wish to address Mr. Cruz's comments from the September 6th school board meeting. Mr. Cruz, gender identity is a very personal, emotional issue for those individuals struggling with it. It is not something you pick or experiment with. It is for those students and individuals who struggle with gender identity, they face ridicule, bullying, and often suicide. It's not a warm, cozy thought. Abortion, Mr. Cruz, is a decision faced by a woman, her physician, and perhaps her family. It is not your business, nor anyone else's. If you outlaw abortion, you only shut the door on safe procedures. You do not eliminate abortions. You send them to back alleys. If you want to offer options to help provide good choices, that's a different subject. It was impressive that you, Mr. Cruz, were unaware of the opt-out policy for the sexual education in this district. So unprofessional of you to not know the policies of your school board. I am sure you would not tolerate employees of this district being ignorant of the district policies or their responsibilities. It is unbelievable that you encourage people to ignore laws. They disagree with Mr. Cruz. We are a country built on laws. Without them, we have chaos. How will our students learn if they do not have to follow rules? And who gets to decide what laws we follow and what we don't? To suggest the problem in World War II was not Hitler, but the soldiers and officers who followed his rules demonstrates a great ignorance of history. Shocking in a school board member. Just as your ignorance about parent rights to opt out on the sex education and abstinence. If all you do is preach abstinence and not education, those policies will drive our young people to discover sex for themselves, as the past has shown. While it is admirable that you are very involved with your church, other people feel the same way about their religions. There is a reason this country was founded on the principle of the separation of church and states. Otherwise, we would all be Puritans or Anglicans. You, Mr. Cruz, need to focus on your job as a school board member and not spend your time spreading your religion at school board functions. Not everyone appreciates it. As a public official, needs to respect all religions and allow them to be represented and not force your beliefs down the throats of everyone and the children in this district. I find that highly offensive.
More speakers.
Thank you. We are now at changes and deletions. Are there any changes or deletions?
The following changes and deletions are on the agenda. Item 3C1, CIIS, page 77, under Chino Hills High School, Song Leaders, Universal Dance Association, High School Dance Team Nationals. Strike Crestline, California, and insert Kissimmee, Florida. Item 3D6, Facilities Planning and Operations, page 103, second paragraph, strike HBI inspections and replace with TYR IOR services, and page 104, third whereas, strike HBI inspections and replace with TYR IOR services.
Excuse me, Pat, could you give me the first change and deletion at
Item 3C1, CIIS, page 77, delete Crestline and insert Kissimmee, Florida.
Thank you so much. I was looking for it, and it wasn't on here. Thank you. Okay, we are now at action items. Please announce the first item.
Item 2A1, public hearing regarding the sufficiency of instructional materials 2018-2019 and adoption of Resolution 2018-2019-21.
Recommend that the Board of Education conduct a public hearing regarding the sufficiency of instructional materials 2018-2019 and adopt Resolution 2018-2019-21. I now open the public hearing at 7:46 p.m. Do we have any speakers?
No speakers.
I now close the public hearing at 7:47 p.m. And for the adoption of the resolution, may I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Comments, questions, or discussions? Mr. Cruz? Oh, no? I have your light. Any other? Hearing none, then all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Preferential vote?
Aye.
The motion passes with a vote of 5-0. Next item.
Item 2B1, Resolution 2018-2019-20, adopting the mitigated negative declaration and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, approving the project and delegating authority to staff to execute the notice of determination for the Chino High School reconstruction project.
That is the recommendation that the Board of Education adopt Resolution 2018-2019-20, the mitigated negative declaration and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, approve the project, and delegate authority to staff to execute the notice of determination for the Chino High School reconstruction project.
No speakers.
Are there any speakers? None. So may I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
And a second. Comments, questions, or discussion? Mrs. Orozco.
I have a couple of comments. Actually, I'd like to ask for, I already know the answer to this, but I'd like for staff to clarify. There is some misconception that when the admin building is going up, that only the admin building is going up and not classrooms. So,
That is incorrect. It's going to be classrooms along with the administration building.
okay, I just wanted to clarify that. And also, within our agenda, there was letters from the hospital and also from the city that had concerns. I just want to confirm that we are on ongoing conversation with those concerns.
Yes, we'll continue with ongoing conversations, and they will go on for probably a year or so.
Okay. Thank you.
Hearing no other questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Preferential vote?
Aye.
Motion passes with a vote of 5-0.
Item 2C1, compensation increase for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act students.
Recommend the Board of Education approve a compensation increase for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act WIOA students. Are there any speakers?
There are no speakers.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
A second? Thank you. Comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Preferential?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes with a vote of 5-0. Next item.
Item 2C2, public notice and hearing regarding the California School Employees Association and its Chino Chapter 102 initial bargaining proposal to the Chino Valley Unified School District for a successor collective bargaining agreement effective July 1, 2018.
Recommend the Board of Education give public notice and conduct a public hearing regarding the California School Employees Association and its Chino Chapter 102 initial bargaining proposal to the Chino Valley Unified School District for a successor collective bargaining agreement effective July 1st, 2018. So now, Mrs. Kaler? Okay. I open the public hearing at 7:50. Do we have any speakers?
There are no speakers.
I close the public hearing at 7:50. And
That's it.
that's it?
That concludes the action items.
Okay, that concludes action items. We are now at consent, Pat. Are there any speakers on consent items?
There are no speakers.
Board members, do you have any polls? Mrs. Orozco?
None.
Mr. Cruz?
No polls.
Mrs. Blair?
None.
Mr. Na?
And I have none.
And I have none. For the consent items, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Preferential?
Aye.
The motion passes with a vote of 5-0. We're now to information items. Are there any questions or comments, board members? Hearing none, we are now at board member and superintendent communications. Mrs. Orozco.
Thank you. I think he's still here. I just want to acknowledge we have a former board member in the audience. Welcome, Mr. Colta. I guess he's in town from Texas, so thanks for stopping by. And he's hiding somewhere, so anyway. Moving on. Dr. Enfield spoke at the Realtors, Chino Valley Realtors Association CV Rep. I know that it stands for something different. I'm trying to figure out. CV, Chino Valley Realtors. I can't remember. I went blank. But anyway, just want to share that he so eloquently shared about PBIS at that meeting, talked about some really great things that are going on in our district. And Dr. Enfield, I think that the word isn't getting out about PBIS, and so maybe we need to talk about it again, and then, or maybe put it on the website and share some of the results that we're seeing because of it. So something we need to put it out there again because we're doing some great stuff.
Yeah, we keep putting it on social media. I think it's on the front webpage, but we'll continue to put more information out.
Perfect. Okay. Okay. So I didn't get to attend the ribbon cutting at Liberty Elementary. However, I did stop by after a couple days later. And it was for their Make Space library. Actually, it's their STEAM library or their STEAM room. What a great room that they made out of their library. It's, great use of space. The furniture, okay, so now I get about the furniture. The furniture, it was great. And so, unfortunately, I visited when there were no students, and so I plan to go back again when there are students there to see them utilize the area. So, great things going on at Liberty. Are you going to talk about Don Lugo, the surgical? Okay, then I will. So, Don Lugo is doing some great things in addition to the Quest. They made history the other day. So, they have 2 Syndaver surgical canines. And so that goes along for their veterinarian program. The reason they made history, and I'm just going to read exactly what they sent to us, and it says, "This is literally a historic event as you are not only the very first high school in California to receive the Syndaver unit for education, but also the very first high school in the world to have the surgical canine model." It said the reason that this is such a big deal is because only institutions such as University of Florida, Texas A&M, University of Saskatoon, and recently Cornell University have them. So I actually stopped by and they gave me, real quick because I only had a few minutes, but they gave me a hands-on demonstration. And it feels real. You can feel the pulse. You can, even the texture of the model feels real. It's amazing. What they explained to me, and actually what I saw on one of their videos, because I went on their website, is they perform surgical procedures, and if they mess up, it bleeds. And so they actually have, I don't know, colored water or whatever, something pumping through so that if you make a wrong cut, it's going to bleed. And so really, it's incredible. It was incredible. It was really cool. So it's 70% water, so that gives it the texture of the realness. Great stuff going on in our district and at Don Lugo. And that just adds to what we have in our pathways. And we have some great pathways going on. I didn't make any comments at the last board meeting, but I want to share that I attended the September mixer for the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce. It was held at the Chino Neighborhood House. Great event, but more so the neighborhood house is kind of like our Hope Center, where they assist families that are in need, and so great event that went on. I also attended the Rhodes Cum Laude Awards, and they did not disappoint. They still had the great walking down the red carpet with the spotlights, and great event that they have I think they actually were bringing it back, and so really nice event. Congrats to those students. I had indicated that I would share this for County Supervisor Kurt Hagman's office. Melissa Campagna could not make it tonight, and so I indicated that I would share this for her. So it's a Veterans Claims event, and what they're doing is they're answering any questions about existing claims, conduct benefit assessment interviews, complete claim forms, and paperwork. And so this is on November 8th. It's from 10 to 2, and it's at Supervisor Kurt Hagman's district office in Chino Hills. So wanted to pass that along. Okay, so now if you would just indulge me a couple of minutes here, I'm actually going to make a couple of requests of Dr. Enfield and President Fikes. So we have received emails from parents who have questioned how it is that other groups are aware of an agenda item on an upcoming board meeting, specifically the October 18th board meeting. So what I want to do is I want to explain the process. So according to our board policy 9322, any board member or member of the public may request that a matter within the jurisdiction of the board be placed on the agenda of a regular meeting. The request shall be submitted in writing to the superintendent or designee with supporting documents and information, if any, at least 30 days before the scheduled meeting date. So we weren't, it wasn't out there because anybody was trying to be sneaky or anybody was sharing anything. There was a request made. So in August, a request was made by Karen England of Capital Resource to place an item on the agenda. That item was placed on our September 6th meeting agenda for discussion. And so that's how we were able to discuss their request. However, at that meeting, Mr. Cruz made the request for it to come back for action. And apparently at some point after he made the request to President Fikes, which was appropriate, that it come to the board at the October 18th meeting. So just in general, in regards to policies, so that the public is aware, the board relies on California School Boards Association for our policies. And the reason we rely on CSBA is because they have experienced attorneys who are experts in the area of California law and California Ed Code. So on September 18th, we received, now going back to the request and the request policy, on September 18th, we received an outside analysis regarding the requested policy. However, my concern is that it doesn't indicate that it's a legal analysis. And because of that, what I would like to request, President Fikes and Dr. Enfield, is that the board receive a legal analysis from our attorneys. And actually, I would like to see our attorneys at a board meeting to provide that legal analysis or a presentation of a legal analysis in regards to that policy, because that other analysis did not indicate that it was a legal analysis. So that's my first request, which leads to my second request. So in an effort, I've always advocated accountability and transparency. So in an effort to be transparent with all of our community members and to give our attorneys ample time to fully review the proposed policy, then to provide the board and the public with an in-depth legal analysis and presentation at a board meeting, I'm requesting that the item be moved to the November 1st board meeting. Now, this is a very important issue. We have parents who have a concern, and we don't want to simply just dismiss anyone's concern. Given that we don't need to meet a deadline. It doesn't make sense to rush on such an important issue as this. And I believe we must do our due diligence for all concerned. Plus, this will allow for transparency for our community. It will allow the board to learn of any potential concerns and/or potential violations. And later, it may allow the board to determine how the concerns of parents can be addressed. I just want to give a little background. So if you recall, I proposed a policy regarding campaigning on district policy. And it came back to us multiple times before the policy could be adopted. And we did so that we would not violate employee rights or violate any state and federal laws. And so because policies are typically created, revised, and/or updated as a result of current practice, changes in law, or when we must comply with state and federal mandates and regulations, you know, I as an individual may or may not agree with the proposed policy, and when I have the choice, I cast my vote accordingly. However, when a policy must comply with state and federal mandates and regulations, for me, I believe that as a board member, I do not have the luxury to vote according to whether I agree. As board members, we take an oath and we must comply with law and mandates, and violating state and federal mandates or laws puts our district and our funding at risk. By the same token, I am receptive to parent concerns, and I do want to find a workable solution. So, to that end, I am requesting that our attorneys provide the board with a presentation of a legal analysis at the November 1st board meeting. But further, I am also requesting that it follow our regular process regarding policies, and that is that it come for us for information on November 1st with the presentation. So I'm making that request.
And I will not be addressing that this minute. Thank you. Mr. Cruz?
Yes. What's up?
No,
Do
your
you have closing comments?
Your closing comments.
When are we going to address that?
No, it's up to the president.
It's up to the president. Yeah. I attended the parent-family engagement program yesterday, talking about mental illness and issues with drugs. And
Could you put your microphone up? Thank you.
yeah, it was really roughly 300 parents that were involved in the parent-family engagement program. You have to thank the officers from Chino and Chino Hills, PD, Negro, Cato, Cervantes, Barbie, and you had other great staff such as Ms. Sweet and Ms. Farley. A lot of great parents discussing a lot of issues, Dr. Enfield. One parent suggested having an active shooter drill, but like a drill or a training situation. Others suggested if that was possible to do a survey for parents, and those that don't want to do it, have an opt-out form. One parent suggested the ban of cell phones in classroom. She quoted statistics and data as evidence of negative impact on students using electronic devices, while at the same time parents view the value of advanced technology for academic usage. So we need to address the appropriate cell phone usage in classroom, like calculator surveys versus music, YouTube, or the student's will. They also talked about drugs being a big issue in Chino Valley, and vapors that are flavored to persuade our children to do that kind of stuff. But what was interesting they brought up was that music is glorifying suicide, and I thought that was quite interesting. And I know in 2016 there was 59 under age 11 committed suicide. So when it comes to social media, it is impacting our children in a negative way. One of the parents had the data why data, why teens are more prone to addiction, mental illness, and she mentioned a lot of data concerning that when you have social media, that social media is paralleling drugs in terms of how the brain is changed, the chemistry of it. So it was quite interesting that we had a lot of informed parents concerned for their kids. So that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Blair.
I wasn't going to comment, but then Bella Kennedy Cummins spoke. And it was interesting to me that she was the first speaker, and what she addressed was a household with love, built with love, created with love, and the fact that you have same-sex parents. But standing behind you was the individual who authored a resolution in this school district in 2010 that supported Proposition 8, which opposed that exact family that you represented there. And I took a picture because you stood there and he stood behind you. And I wanted to see if he would have some kind of emotion or feeling. And you know, and I know some of the board members here recognize him and they praise him for all the great work he did. But I can't wait until all the young voters in our community rise up and we effect change in November so that we can undo that resolution from 2010. So thank you for bringing it out again, reminding us that it's been 10 years since that hateful resolution was placed here at a school district that is supposed to represent every student and every family. So kudos to you, Bella, on this 10th anniversary of that ugly resolution. Thank you.
Mr. Nall.
Yeah, tonight was a Don Lugo night, journalism class. What an awesome kids and awesome teachers. And I'd like to thank our students sitting in the front, including Bella. Thank you for being a good student with a goal in your mind where you grow and become somebody special to someone and help out those who's in need. Thank you. And thank you for Mother for adopting children and doing a good deal. And as I have said, it's tough. The life is tough. Being born on this earth is tough. The death is even tougher because we all try to survive. We go to hospitals for a reason. But as far as the compassion goes and everything goes, that we try our best, in the end, truly, we're not in charge. We do our best. We don't have the true knowledge. We think we are, but we try. People do change when they go through tough times, good times, but enjoy the ride, knowing the time is limited, but we're going to do the right thing. And as Martin Luther King Jr. had done, changes with lifting up the value, the family value, love and care. I had visited Chino High School, and they have a new artificial turf in their quad area. So no more you have ugly grasses and bits of trashes. It was really clean, and students were really happy. And their electric cart, for a while they've been down, but thanks to Martin, our facility and planning department, they're in great working condition, serving our students, so thank you. I have also visited Chino Hills High School. We had custodians being absent, but we had a big Al, and you know who he is. He's been a security guard for many, many years, and our principals, they were all pitching in, cleaning up the campus. And when students were watching them cleaning, guess what? Especially the student leadership classroom, they followed. I think this is what it takes. It takes the courage, being a decent human being, being a good neighbor. And if you want to become a leader one day, especially our young ones, Learn and practice to sacrifice yourself for others. And appreciate this life, not the death. Death is not a choice. It's a murder. Thank you.
Superintendent Enfeld.
I have no comments tonight.
So I have a couple of comments. First, Mr. Cruz, your comment about cell phones, I just want to give you a little history on that. When I was a high school principal, we used to not allow cell phones, and everything changed when Columbine happened. And the California State Legislature said they would not allow principals to suspend kids or to discipline them in any way, shape, or form because they had their cell phones, because it made all the difference in the safety of the students. So it's not just our regulation about cell phones. I know that the state changed their regulation. I don't know where we are with that. I'm sure that there are people in our district who can tell us about that, but I'll never forget that day. I'll never forget watching it on television, and I'll never forget coming back to work the next day and finding out, yes, all your students can have cell phones. So just wanted you to know that little piece of history. The other thing I wanted to talk about is a board policy that I would like to see us revisit as a board. I'm hopeful before I leave the board, and that is the policy of the board presidency. Currently, we have a rotation system, and I would like to say that in my year, this year as being board president, I think that that system probably doesn't serve us well. If what we want is to operate autonomously, if what we want is to self-govern, I think we need a board president who is experienced, has taken courses or availed themselves of the CSBA experiences to be able to help lead the board. And I can tell you, because I think most of you know I'm often in the board minority, it's difficult to be the board president when you are in the board minority, because people ask you to speak on behalf of the board. And I worry that when I speak, I don't speak for the majority of the board. I speak primarily for myself. So I think that is something that we need to look at and not pass it around, but rather vote for the person that will be best at representing us. And so I'd like us to look at that policy, Dr. Enfeld. And with that, I adjourn the meeting at 8:14.